Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I'm Darshan Usman. Here are stories making headlines beyond the continent. President Joe Biden is pushing back against calls from within his own party to drop out of the presidential race. In a letter to Democrats, Biden argued that abandoning his campaign would only help his rival Donald Trump. Despite concerns about his mental acuity and debate performance, Biden insisted he's staying in the race. He also took aim at party elites, daring them to challenge him at the convention. Biden's defiant stance comes as NATO leaders gather in Washington and ahead of a crucial debate within the Democratic caucus and his viability as a candidate. For more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afua Hagan. Hello, Afua. Can you give us a bit more detail on what President Joe Biden said in his letter?
This letter came as a bit of a surprise, and in it, he basically states that he'll be running this race to the end of the November election. Now, he says he wouldn't be running again if he did not absolutely believe that he could beat Donald Trump. And he also says that he has heard the concerns that people have and is not blind to them. He also goes on to say that Democratic voters in the primaries have spoken clearly and decisively that he should run. Excuse me. He goes on to say it was their decision to make, not the press, not the pundits, not the big donors, and not any selected group of individuals, no matter how well-intentioned. And he goes on to say that I have no doubt that I and we can and will beat Donald Trump. He says we have one job, and that is to beat Donald Trump.
All right, Afua, now, but who has called for President Joe Biden to step aside?
And that's the thing, that we are at the point now where the calls are coming from within the House, as the saying goes. And you have some lawmakers who have said that they are not confident about Joe Biden's position. So, some elected Democrats, there's 5 of them. They range from Angie Craig in Minnesota, Lyle Duggett in Texas, Seth Moulton from Massachusetts, Mike Quigley
all right,
Illinois.
Afua, I think we'll take a quick break now, and we'll come back to you in a bit. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, just before the break, we're talking U.S. politics and how President Joe Biden has said that he will not quit the presidential race. And we're speaking with our international correspondent, Afua Hagan. And Afua, we're actually talking about how President Joe Biden has actually dared, some of his party elites to challenge him, at the convention. And you're talking about, who has actually called for the president to step aside.
That explicitly stated their request for Joe Biden to step aside. That's 5 who've publicly put their names to this request. There is others within the party who are thinking the same thing. So these are House Representatives Angie Craig from Minnesota, Lyle Duggett from Texas, Seth Moulton from Massachusetts, Mike Quigley from Illinois, and Raul Gruglava from Arizona. So these people have said they explicitly want Joe Biden to step aside. That's according to media reports. There's also some other senators and people within the House who have said that they believe it would be better if Joe Biden, at this point in the race, would step aside and allow the Democrats to pick a new representative at their Congress, which takes place in a couple of months. Now, let's remember, the last Democratic Congress, Joe Biden won 87% of that vote. So he's right in saying that he was democratically elected to be the person to run for president for the Democrats. So if you look at his opinion poll rating, it's around 31% at the moment, whilst Donald Trump's rating is around 47%. And that is a huge disparity. So Joe Biden, if he wants to catch up with Donald Trump, has a very long way to go.
All right, now, Afua, now, aside what the press has actually put out there and what social media has made it out to look like, in your own professional opinion, just how damaging was Biden's debate against Donald Trump?
There's no doubt that the debate which took place at the end of June, the CNN debate, was hugely damaging. It was hugely damaging for Joe Biden and actually hugely positive for Donald Trump. Now, the debate was a chance for Joe Biden to publicly show how competent he is. And actually, it's done the opposite. And it's made age the hugest issue in this election, as opposed to economics, as opposed to inflation, as opposed to abortion rights or immigration. It's now become about age. And, there was things like Joe Biden saying, we finally beat Medicare, and he was kind of rambling at the end of sentences. He just didn't look competent. And he did look old. Now, Joe Biden is 81. Donald Trump is only 3 years younger at 78. But on this particular stage, on that debate, he looked like a younger, fitter, more competent man. Now, there's no doubt that Trump has his moments of rambling and saying things that don't make sense. But it seems that Joe Biden's moments of doing those are far more common than it is with Donald Trump. So in my professional opinion, that debate was hugely damaging for Joe Biden. And that's why you have this letter come out, but also him calling into MSNBC today and talking off the cuff on air about why he's still running for president. He's been accused of doing only these scripted moments, filing teleprompters, of not staying at events for long. So he's trying to do shorter, more off-the-cuff interviews. But we don't really know if those are working in his favor either at this point.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Afua, for speaking to us on this. Away from that, Hurricane Beryl made landfall in the southern U.S. state of Texas on Monday, where some residents were evacuated over warnings of flooding and power outages. The U.S. National Hurricane Center said Beryl, a Category 1 storm, hit the town of Matagorda with wind speeds of 130 kilometers per hour. Beryl is the first hurricane since NHC records began to reach the Category 4 level in June and the earliest to hit the highest Category 5 in July. According to experts, Michael Lowry, it is also the earliest hurricane to make landfall in Texas in a decade. In Europe, new Prime Minister Keir Starmer completed a whistle-stop tour of the UK on Monday, promising Northern Ireland's leaders a new way of doing politics after years of Brexit instability. Starmer, whose centre-left Labour Party won the general election last week, concluded his two-day tour in Cardiff, where he met with party allies who led Wales' devolved government. Now, he had previously visited Scotland and Northern Ireland. In Belfast, he met with the leaders of the UK province's power-sharing executive and other parties at the Stormont Parliament building. He had met First Minister Michelle O'Neill of the pro-Irish Unity Sinn Féin, as well as the party's president Mary Lou MacDonald, alongside Deputy First Minister Emma Little-Pengelly of the pro-British Democratic Unionist Party. Northern Ireland's parties appeared to be unified in their hope that Starmer will restore stability and engagement, as well as relations with Dublin, following difficult relationships under his conservative predecessors. Russia on Monday struck cities across Ukraine with a missile barrage that killed 31 people and heavily damaged a Kyiv children's hospital in an assault condemned as a ruthless attack on civilians. Dozens of volunteers, doctors and rescue workers dug through debris of a part of Okhmedit Pediatric Hospital in a desperate search for survivors after the rare daytime bombardment. Emergency services said the first responders ran for cover when sirens and an explosion sounded after the initial strikes, a repeat attack that left 4 dead at a maternity hospital in a separate district of Kyiv. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russian forces fired more than 40 missiles towards at least 5 major civilian hubs mainly in the south and east of the country.
Об'явлена повітряна тривога. На щастя, вдалося вивести весь персонал у безпечне місце. Почали лунати вибухи. Всі були травмовані, персонал, у нас 9 чоловік, але, на щастя, середньої важкості. Всі цілі, всі приміщення зруйновані. Майже тут працювати, оперувати на даному етапі.
National Rally President Jordan Bardella acknowledges controversial candidate nominations hurt the party's legislative election performance. Despite coming in third, Bardella remains optimistic, echoing Marine Le Pen's sentiments of a deferred victory. He believes a powerful wave will eventually bring the RN to power. Bardella's remarks come as the party regroups after a disappointing showing. The poor performance has sparked questions about the party's future direction and strategy. Bardella's comments suggest the RN is already looking ahead to the next election, hoping to capitalize on what they see as a building momentum.
Je crois que la victoire est différée. Et je pense que empêcher le peuple français de se choisir une politique différente ne peut pas constituer un destin viable pour le pays et pour les Français. Et quoi qu'on en dise, le Rassemblement national est en nombre de voix exprimées, comme en nombre de parlementaires, la première force politique de France. Mais il est clair que c'est moins fonctionné, mais nous allons continuer à travailler, je vais continuer à travailler, et je souhaite que nous revenions au prochain scrutin et aux prochaines élections encore plus préparés, encore plus attentifs aux demandes des Français et encore plus prêts à exercer les responsabilités. Mais nous gouvernerons et la vague qui nous porte est une vague puissante qui s'est exprimée encore hier à près de 37% d'intention de vote, telle qu'exprimée par les Français. Et cette vague, elle nous mènera au pouvoir. Et je pense que
France's far-right National Rally was widely expected to win this snap election, but instead they were beaten into third place. A left-wing alliance called New Popular Front won the most seats after a highly charged and abbreviated election called only 4 weeks ago by weakened President Emmanuel Macron. National Rally won the first round of this election, and all the opinion polls since then predicted victory in the runoff round. Instead, France now faces a hung parliament with no party having anything like a majority. RN leader Jordan Bardella blamed unnatural political alliances for stopping their rise to power.
On a milité pendant des semaines depuis la dissolution de l'Assemblée nationale, c'est hyper fort, on était là pour ça, on voulait ça, c'est un instant de vie, c'est l'histoire, on est fiers de ce nouveau Front populaire, on est fiers de LFI, de Jean-Luc Mélenchon, de tout le monde, et on est fiers de nous et de tout le monde. Et c'est ça la République.
Notre peuple a clairement écarté la solution du pire pour lui. Ce soir, le Rassemblement national est loin d'avoir la majorité absolue que les commentateurs lui prédisaient il y a une semaine à peine. C'est même tout le contraire.
Le nouveau Front populaire, il est né ici, dans ces locaux, il y a moins de 4 semaines.
Let's head to the Middle East now, where Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid has offered a surprise lifeline to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Lapid pledged to support Netanyahu's government if a controversial hostage deal led to the departure of key coalition members. He told his party meeting in the Knesset that Netanyahu doesn't have to choose between saving hostages and saving his government. Lapid's offer could keep Netanyahu in power even if ultra-right ministers resign over the deal. The move has significant implications for Israel's political landscape and the fate of the hostage deal.
יש עסקת חטופים על השולחן. זה לא נכון שנתניהו צריך לבחור בין עסקת החטופים להמשך הכהונה שלו כראש ממשלה. הבטחתי לו רשת ביטחון ואני אעמוד בהבטחה הזו. זה לא נכון שהוא צריך לבחור בין חיי החטופים לבין הממשלה. שיעשה את העסקה, אם סמוטריץ' ובן גביר יפרשו, הוא יקבל רשת ביטחון. אני ראש האופוזיציה, אני רוצה בחירות, העם רוצה בחירות, הממשלה האיומה הזו גורמת רק נזקים לעם ישראל. אבל יש משהו הרבה יותר חשוב מזה, החטופים צריכים לחזור הביתה. זה פשוט יותר חשוב. לעסקת החטופים יש רוב גדול בעם, יש לה רוב גדול פה בכנסת.
In Asia, Beijing on Monday protested as Philippines and Japan signed a defense pact against China that will allow the deployment of troops in each other's territory as they boost ties in the face of China's growing assertiveness. Lin Zhang, the foreign ministry spokesman, termed it as small circles that will encourage a new Cold War and provoke confrontation. The signing of the Reciprocal Access Agreement comes as China's saber rattling towards Taiwan and over the South China Sea fuels fears of a potential conflict that could drag in the United States. The RAA was finalized in Manila, where Japanese Defense Minister Minoru Kihara and Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa held talks with their Philippine counterparts Gilberto Teodoro and Enrique Manalo.
开展交流合作，不应损害地区国家间的相互理解与信任，不应破坏地区和平与稳定，不应针对第三方或损害第三方利益。亚太地区不需要军事集团，更不需要挑动阵营对抗、鼓动新冷战的小圈子。任何损害本地区和平稳定、破坏本地区团结合作的行径，都将招致地区人民的警惕。
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi heads to Russia on Monday for a two-day official visit. The visit is Modi's first since Russia launched its campaign in Ukraine and since he returned to power last month as leader of the world's most populous country. The Indian leader trod a fine line between maintaining a long-standing relationship with Moscow and courting closer Western security ties. Moscow remains a key supplier of cut-price oil and weapons to India, but the Kremlin's Russian government, isolation from the West, and blooming friendship with Beijing have impacted its time-honored partnership with New Delhi. The Philippines and Japan have signed a key defense pact allowing access agreement aims to boost ties amid China's growing assertiveness in the region. The accord provides a legal framework for joint training and operations. Now, Philippine Defense Minister Gilberto Teodoro hailed the signing as a milestone in ensuring peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. The move is seen as a counterbalance to China's military might, with the U.S. strengthening alliances in the region. Japan and the Philippines have grown closer in recent years, with Japan supplying security equipment and technology to the Philippines. The pact is expected to take effect once ratified by lawmakers in both countries.
Today we convene the second Philippines-Japan Foreign Defense Ministerial meeting. This meeting marks a milestone in our decade-old strategic partnership. We reaffirmed our shared goals of ensuring peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region, promoting regional economic growth, and addressing the increasing and complex challenges in the region and beyond.
Today, it is indeed an honor to be part of the signing of this historic reciprocal access agreement between Japan and the Philippines. It will put flesh into our already strong and robust bilateral relations, and it will be a great step towards the concretization of trust. And now comes the work of building confidence among the members of the Japanese Self-Defense Force and the Armed Forces of the Philippines. It will also lead to greater interoperability, exchanges of information, and other cooperative activities both bilaterally and multilaterally.
南シナ海をめぐる問題は地域の平和と安定に直結する国際社会の正当な関心事項であり、我が国は南シナ海における力による一方的な現状変更の試みを 緊張を高めるいかなる行為にも強く反対します。
民との関係強化につきましては、特定の国を念頭に置いたものではなく、日フィリピンをはじめとする地域の平和と繁栄のために不可欠であり、この試合に基づく自由で開かれた国際秩序の維持強化に資する。
And that's all at this hour. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.